Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's PAVE Coffee Chat, Merchandising and Styling from Retail to Set. Please join me in welcoming our hosts for today's chat, McCall O'Brien and Arturo Wong. McCall O'Brien is a wardrobe stylist based in Los Angeles, California. She has worked as a stylist for 10 years, assisting for 8, and working on her own projects for 2 years. McCall has worked with ABC, Disney, Bahari, Earth Gang, Usher, Rob Kardashian, YG, Black Eyed Peas, Hungry Man Productions, Believe Media, Black Label Content, and various publications. Arturo Wong is an experienced professional in the visual merchandising and styling world of Los Angeles. Within the past 10 years of working in the industry, he's dabbled in fashion PR from couture to streetwear, into visual merchandising from both retail and corporate levels, and has a demonstrated history in styling within the entertainment industry. Arturo graduated from the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in 2012, and now currently teaches merchandising and marketing courses within the visual communications curriculum. At the conclusion of today's chat, we'll be hosting a brief Q&A. Please send in your questions using the Q&A button found at the bottom of your screen. Now I'll turn it over to you, Arturo and McCall.
Okay, hi.
Hi, we want to appreciate or say thank you to everybody that came to join us today. Good afternoon. It is barely noon here, but 3 o'clock in New York or East Coast. So hello, afternoon. My name is Arturo Wong and this is McCall O'Brien.
Hello.
We have known each other almost about a little over 10 years now. We went to FITM together. And kind of through that entire journey of 10 years knowing each other, we've kind of just seen each other go through different experiences, through different work experiences here in LA, and
have helped one another. We've worked together on multiple sets. Sorry, I didn't go
No, you're sorry. And I think we just kind of complement each other really well. McCall is mainly in fashion styling, and I am more on the side of visual merchandising, but also try to hyper focus on styling within that world as well, trying to mend both worlds. So today's chat will kind of combine both worlds, and we'll kind of show you how they complement each other. So
Cool. So like we have heard, I've been doing this for 10 years, 8 for assisting, 2 for under my own brand. And when I was in high school and I thought this is what I wanted to do, I was like, I just want to shop for a living and dress people. That's it. Little did I know it was much more than that. And when I started assisting, I realized what kind of all styling entailed. And then working under my own brand, I realized how much goes into styling and all the different things you need to think about when dressing someone, whether it's for their everyday life or set, commercial performance, you name it. So when I was assisting, you know, we're not given much detail as an assistant because the conversations are had between the stylist and the producers or directors or whatever. So I would show up to stores, meet the stylist, and they would give me, you know, wardrobe directive. So I would pick out pieces for clothing of what we're looking for. We would bring it back to the office, set it up on a rack like what we have behind us, have a fitting, send photos to production, get approval, go to set, wrap up the set. And that was my extent of styling. So it wasn't until when I was working under my own brand that I understood what being a stylist means. And so when a stylist is hired, I'm either hired from my client, whether that's an artist or a celebrity, a production company, a publication. It all depends what the job actually is. And so at first you give they'll give you a breakdown of what the job is, how many looks you're gonna be styling, how many people you're gonna be styling, the overall direction we're taking that in. And then we hop on a creative call, and on the call, it's usually like the director, producers, stylist, possibly hair and makeup, depending on what the job is, art department. and we discuss what the lighting's going to be like, what the background and backdrop is going to be. Is it going to be a green screen? Because that's going to affect what clothes we can pull and what colors we have to stay away from. We discuss who the project is for. If it's for a commercial, you know, the client might be, I don't know, Taco Bell. So what are Taco Bell's colors? What are their competitors' colors that we have to stay away from? If it's for an artist, is it a music video? So do we have a theme that we can take it in? Is it for, I don't know, a celebrity? Are they being themselves? So then, you know, we have to stalk their Instagram and see, who are they? How do they want to be perceived to the world? And then after having this discussion with everyone, with the creative team, from there, then I go into creating ideas, I guess, and pulling inspiration and creating a mood board. So for me, I get inspiration from movies, TV shows, music videos. I love music and music videos, so that's where I draw a lot of inspiration from. Or even like if we go out and we're going out to the world and architecture and different mediums and different materials combined. You know, maybe it's the ballet and the way movement moves and all that good stuff. Or even, I know Art and I, when we talk about like how we're going to get dressed or how we're dressing someone, I think both of us like to mix things that don't really go together, which I think is a really cool way to focus in on your style also as a creative. And then, so yes, okay. So I focus on all my inspiration. I'm a huge fan of Pinterest. I never got into Tumblr like a lot of people did. So I'm constantly on Pinterest looking for images of what's in my mind, trying to jot it down, and that way I can communicate visually to someone. So after I find all the images that I think represent what I'm trying to convey for the character or artist, then I send over the mood board to the creative team and I get notes back. And usually if it's for like an artist that I work with, you know, I already know what their brand looks like. So in the beginning, it's a little bit more hands-on towards after you've established a relationship with them, then I think they allow you to take some creative control and they just trust your opinion. But if it's for like a TV show, you know, we have to read the script and break that down. So when I'm also getting inspiration, I'm keeping in mind who that character is, what the writer wants the character to be, how I see the character after I read the script and all that good stuff. So send over my mood board. We have another call. We have another talk of any notes that they have. And once we have that solidified, then my team, which would usually be Art and I, go to the stores and start looking for clothing. And then after we hit every store possible in Los Angeles for the entire day, we literally shop till we drop. And then we head back to the office, put everything on the rack, look through, see if we need to fill in anywhere, and we get ready for our fittings. Now, typically, I think most people like to have a fitting the day or a few days before our shoot. That way, shoot just goes smooth. And so if it's for a commercial, we have to take photos of everything and send it to the producer, director, and client to approve. If it's for an artist, a lot of times the artist has the gets to say what they want to wear, but sometimes the label or management might also have an idea of what they want the artist to look like. But then also, you know, sometimes it doesn't go as planned. Like we might have a fitting that's set up for later in the evening, and if it's for an artist because they're in the studio, or who knows, we all have days, so it might not go as planned. So like, I don't know, I've had fittings at like 1 a.m. and you just have to be on call and ready to go to a fitting. Or like right now with the pandemic, we have to have Zoom fittings. So we'll send the wardrobe and we'll take photos of what the outfit is, send the wardrobe to the talent, and then we have to sit on screen like this and we have to discuss how the fitting should be, whether maybe the pants are flattering, but the top is not. Maybe we like it together, we don't like it together. Something needs to be tailored. So we get all that, we take photos. That way, production, producers, directors, everybody knows what this person is wearing. Art department can know, okay, she's wearing this or he's wearing this, and we'll change the set a little bit, or that will go with this set because there might be multiple setups. But you also have to be prepared for this also, that something might not go as planned. So we always have backup options also. Like, we might have like 5 looks that the person is doing, but we have, I don't know, 10 extra backup options because something might happen on set. So anyways, after we have our fitting, we go to set, and set changes depending on the job. So like for a commercial, we have to be on set at 6:30 a.m., 7, it all depends. I've had to be on set before at 2:30 in the morning because it was a late night show and I had a client who was performing. And so once we get to set, we set up the racks, we steam all the clothes, we make sure everything is camera ready, cut tags, do all that good stuff, get the talent dressed, walk them to set. And then one of us, most likely we're both there, but if we have other people to dress, one of us will be getting them ready while the other person is on set doing last looks, which means we're lint rolling them, adjusting wardrobe so it lays nicely on set, and then just standing by in case something needs to change. Sometimes, you'll have the client on camera and ready, and someone with creative will change and say, we don't think that this looks good. We want to have, I don't know, something different. And they're like, do you happen to have a gray shirt? And it's like, well, because it wasn't in our fitting, you would think not, but because we always take 10 steps ahead, we do in fact have that gray shirt.
Exactly. And I think that's a huge part of the job. I think especially kind of getting into the world of wanting to intern or trying to figure out something next. A big, huge note that we look for in other people in terms of getting assistants or interns is to really have this person learn how to anticipate what's next. And that's really what this job is, honestly. You'll get everything in the beginning of how you're supposed to style, what direction you're supposed to go in. But also, I think a lot of people tend to forget that we need to have these backup options just in case, because minds change right on the spot in the middle of filming sometimes. Maybe the top that we chose is not really going to translate too well on camera.
Right.
So then we have to completely change everything that was approved after email and email chains with different people. It's so funny, but it's really interesting to see the way that McCall works and understands how the industry works like this. Sometimes you can literally ask her like, okay, cool, like they need a gray top now, what do we have? And she has like 4 or 5 different options in the back, as well as her own kit. She brings her own clothing just in case. But yeah, this is just mainly a huge aspect of the job where you just have to know how to anticipate what will happen next.
And then also it's like, sometimes, we'll anticipate certain things. And we'll have, a variety of jewelry, but maybe the ring we need to have this person wear, it doesn't fit. And luckily you have a shot list throughout the day. So you know what time you're filming what. So even one of us might have to run out offset to go to Target and grab rings in certain sizes. And so we try our best to not have to leave set and do that, because you can move the shot list and change it up. So it can get challenging, but it's great and it's so much fun. And then once you see everything come together, there's nothing like it. Like how people get like the runner's high and performers get a high performing, to see your client on stage and like the ideas that you had come alive and all the blood, sweat, and tears put into this, because trust me, there is always blood, sweat, and tears. It's nothing like it. It's, you get to travel the world, and because maybe your client is performing in a different country, or I've got to film before in Prague in Australia, I've gone to, I don't know, New York, all over. It's just been like, it's a blast. It's so much fun. And it's just, it really is a creative effort with everyone. There's so much that goes into it. Wardrobe is such a small part of it. And same with getting the news out there of who is wearing what, and that comes from the PR side of it.
We actually have some visuals as well, Nikki, if you can pull that up, that we can kind of just go through and show everybody some examples of the work that we both have done, mainly a lot of the work that McCall has done. That way it's just a little easier to speak to the craziness that she's gone through.
So we can scroll past this. This is just like a cover photo. That's my team on set. Art took that photo. So this is just doing last looks. The first photo, you can see the photographer. That's my little kit bag, one of them, makeup artist. And then that is just a red carpet that I've done with Bahari. And then if you keep scrolling, that's me in action of lint rolling, doing paperwork, you name it, putting on a necklace, a red carpet, pulling clothes. We've done that commercial together, or promo for Dancing with the Stars together. Most of these art has been on set with me. And then more Dancing with the Stars. So this one is a little bit more, I don't know, you have to think more about it. So when I was saying, if they're celebrities, who they are. So we stalked everybody's Instagram if they had one, tried to see how they dress themselves, knowing what the creative direction was for the shoot. How would we mix it together? How are they all going to complement one another? So yeah, okay, sorry. that's that. And then what is next? And then we've done American Idol for the Oscars. And then my friend Kiana and her husband attended the Oscars, so we got to dress them for the red carpet. That's Art and I at the bottom, putting on her shoes, having a whole moment. Then this is Bahari performing, and then the music video we just did. And if you continue, things get more challenging with the pandemic, but we are always masked up. And, you know, that's when we did our virtual fitting, and it's a little bit more complicated, but it's great. It ended up being amazing.
That's one thing too that we can kind of speak to for a little bit, is styling in the world of COVID. As you know, and everyone else has experienced, we've all had to make a ton of adjustments into our day-to-day, and even in the creative world, in the creative industry. I think a lot of us have been hitting this wall of, okay, we can't normally do what we typically do, but how can we achieve the same goal under the circumstances that we have? So with styling, it was really interesting. Back when we did this job for Big Sky, looking and sourcing for a lot of the products, at the time, outdoor malls were the only thing that were available to us. So that is one of the experiences where we had to drive probably 45 minutes out of the city to check out different malls that were actually open and available to us. That way we were able to source all the product that we needed. Those days were really long and crazy.
And even then, inventory was always changing because they had to quarantine all the clothes as well. And so, you know, we might see something one day, take a photo, and we might not want to pull it yet because we don't know if that's, if creative likes that one jacket, and then we go back the next day and it's gone. And luckily we did have ample time to prep for this shoot. But even still, when we had to ship certain things, because sometimes it's easier instead of going to stores to just ship stuff. But because everyone was shipping everything with COVID, then shipment was delayed, and
it was definitely a challenge.
It was a challenge.
A lot of the stores that we had gone to as well had just opened, so they were working with the same product that they've had through the past couple of months that they weren't able to sell. A lot of their intention was to try and push everything that they already had in store. That way it made room for everything new that was going to come in the new season. So we were working with older apparel. It was just a different challenge. But what I love about it is I think it really amplifies the fact that we really needed to anticipate what was next. We kind of had to check a couple more boxes than what we typically did prior. That way we knew that we had everything covered. Everything also had to be cleaned. We had to make sure that we were maintaining proper
sanitation, is that the right word?
Sanitary processes. But it was a really nice experience to kind of jump into, because then you can kind of see like, okay, cool, like we can actually balance a lot more.
A lot.
It's definitely been a challenge, but I just wanted to talk about that for 2 seconds because COVID is happening right now, and we've all had to make our adjustments in the industry somehow. So yeah, continue.
I think I was just summing it up with for Set, how it's exciting with a collaboration, and even though we do experience all these challenges left and right, and no day's ever the same, no job is ever the same, you're always going to have a lot thrown at you that you have to handle. But still, even with all that happening, to see your product come alive, like this Big Sky poster, and how it was all over the city on billboards, or to see your commercial on air, or to see your client perform on stage, it's just, there's nothing like it. You really can't beat it. Like, I truly love it. But so with the creative process, you know, there's the aspect of PR, or how something is on display at the store that I might not think that I want if I'm looking through the rack, but I'm like, first of all, that mannequin, fire, need that, because I've definitely had that experience when shopping at Nike, when you did do all the merchandising. And you know, I shopped a little too much at Nike when you were working there, but it's because I wanted everything that was on the mannequins.
Of course.
And then if you continue to swipe through, oh, these are just my Pinterest board in my mood boards, but sorry, keep going. And then Art can tell us about merchandising.
So brief background on my end, as you already know, as it was said in the beginning, I moved out to LA back in 2010, right after I graduated high school. I got out. I'm from a super small town in the middle of nowhere, farming community. So it was very different growing up there and knowing that I wanted to be in a creative field, but not really having the outlet to kind of follow what that was. Growing up, it is so funny to go through the school system where everything is backed behind going to a UC or going to a college where you have to get a degree in anything that's medical or law or anything else that's outside of the creative world. It it was kind of hard and jolting to be like, okay, maybe this isn't a reality. But I kind of had to branch out of that to kind of do my own sourcing of information and realize that, you know what, like I can actually be in a creative field. Let me research schools. So I researched FITM. It was in downtown LA. My sister was living here at the time, so I thought that would be a really good segue to get into the city. Started school there, went into visual merchandising, visual communications, only because I did not know exactly where I wanted to go yet. I wanted to get into event planning, and then also with the curriculum, you can learn about styling, you can learn about window displays, everything creative, everything hands-on was there. So as I went through the course, went through each class, realized event planning was a lot harder than what I wanted to get into. So that was also interesting. But as I kind of went through each quarter, it was a nice checklist to go through each one and be like, okay, you know what, maybe I don't really want to get into Windows displays, or maybe I don't really want to get into prop design. So as I did that, within my last year, I was balancing a full-time job at Starbucks, a barista. Anyone who worked at Starbucks, hi. Still go, bad addiction. But anyway, worked at Starbucks full-time. I also interned at the time as well. That is a big recommendation. I know it's a little difficult now under the COVID circumstance, but it is a huge recommendation that I give everybody, to all my students as well, that I highly recommend you guys start getting your experience in an internship. Yes, it might be free work, but the internship and experience will pay off. overall. So I highly recommend getting into internships. I started interning at a fashion PR firm. I did not know what PR was. I didn't know what it did. So I just needed to get into the industry. So I started at a place called LPR. She managed a couple of high-end couture designers here in LA, offices representation in LA, but the designers were in Europe. Probably still beginning, so they didn't really have too much traction. Some of them were Joseph Aboud, menswear designer, and then also we carried Zuhair Murad, who beautiful couture gowns was great because that also gave me an experience in how celebrities get dressed for anything. I didn't know what that world was. So I really learned everything PR 101 there. I also was really nervous in front of my boss. I could not talk on the phone in general with any stranger, let alone a client. So it was a small office. I would answer the phone at the desk and I would be like, hello, LPR. And then I would just blank. I did not know what to say. I did not know how to handle the conversation. And it was so nerve-wracking. And I would kind of just stumble for 2 seconds. And then my boss across from me picked up the phone and would save it. And it felt so awful to have that experience, to be like, oh my goodness, I messed up again. But as it felt awful, it was one of those experiences where I'm like, I'm really glad she did that, because that actually taught me exactly how to answer the phone, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And it really brought me out of my shell. So I owe a lot to fashion PR in terms of being the loud, aggressive person that I am today. But from there, I hopped to Joy Rich. Those of you that know Joy Rich, back in the day, back in its heyday, 2012, 2013, it was really huge. Joy Rich is a streetwear clothing brand that is based in LA. It's mainly bigger in Asia, Japan, China, huge on that side of the world. But we really had the moment here in LA to curate what the brand was looking like, what we wanted the brand, how we wanted the brand to be conveyed everywhere. So it was really interesting because Joy Rich was a small company at the time. We had a small team on our hands. So we had in-house PR, in-house sales, in-house creative designer. Everything was in-house there in this massive building off of La Brea in LA. So I interned there for about 6 months. My boss left and I was working a shift at Starbucks, and they had called me and were like, hey, so-and-so left, he's no longer with the company. We need someone to fill the spot for a PR assistant. We're flying to New York next week for Fashion Week to set up a pop-up, and we need the assistants. Are you able to jump into this role right now? And I could not believe that this was happening. I literally was like drenched in like sour milk and like if you work at Starbucks, you know what, there's a distinct smell that you smell like after a full day of work, and you're like, why am I doing this? But I remember just being there in that moment, like smelling that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this job opportunity? What is happening? So I quickly said yes, I took it. I called my manager at Starbucks and was like, hey, please understand the situation. I can't be with the company anymore. I have to leave as of next week. I can even give you 2 weeks. But I had a really great manager there who like let me have this opportunity. And as I started, it was my first trip to New York. It was my first full job experience, full salary gig, everything new. And I wasn't even 21 at the time. I was 20. I was really young. So it was a really cool experience to fall into this world of so much responsibility. And so being with the company at the time, it was amazing to really curate how everything was going to look. We really had a keen eye to what the brand wanted to translate through social media, how we wanted to seed our product out to different celebrity clientele, big campaigns that were super creative and beautiful. We had really cool artists at the time, really cool models at the time. really push the product as well. So that gained us a lot of traction. So we really wanted to amplify what this brand was. So Nick, if we continue, a huge portion of the job, again, like I said, was celebrity placement and seating. That is one thing that I had learned from my previous job as well, that a lot of the work that we had to do was really just do a lot of research. Huge, I was on Instagram on a daily basis for way too much time. I mainly was trying to source different celebrity clientele that we can get our product on. A lot of people were new up and coming artists. Becky G back at the time was a child, and she was the sweetest girl, and we really wanted to have her on our team. We knew that she was going to be big and huge, and look at her today, amazing. Same as Zendaya. There we go.
Here we go. Wait.
Sorry, everybody.
Okay. Here we are.
From that said on, my apologies. So a lot of the background work in PR was sourcing a lot of new talent, doing a lot of research on new artists that were coming out, new movies that were coming out, who was really kind of gaining traction at the time. So that was a huge opportunity. So if we scroll more to the next page, big celebrity placement for my job at Joy Rich was Rihanna. She was one of the main people that really wore our stuff and was the key person to really just push how we wanted our apparel to look, how we wanted it to be conveyed on our consumer. She was great, and she still is great, but she really definitely amplified that brand. Other people we had in the industry, Lil Wayne, Ludacris, Sierra, Jessie J, and then one of the last people that I had the pleasant opportunity to seating product, which wasn't even anything, but it was just like nice to know that our product was getting out there, was Beyonce. Beyonce wore our Playboy collection in the 7-Eleven music video, and that was major. And so at that time, I had left the company. It was a huge transition getting into the world of Nike. I wanted to get into visual merchandising, mainly because I had a good taste of what fashion PR was. I understood that it was really just based on networking, communication, planning events, handling social media, and so on and so forth. It was just nonstop 24/7. And I kind of wanted to hop out of that for 2 seconds and become a bit more hands-on creatively. So at the time, Nike was opening their the Grove location, and it was going to be their biggest store on the West Coast. I assisted in helping open the store, essentially. I was a full-time visual merchandiser there. And that was a really cool experience to really start from the bottom up in visual merchandising. I was so curious as to how it operated and works in store. And I really wanted to find out how they did it in a corporate level as well. So my main goal was to really just start from the bottom and kind of amplify from there. So really day to day for a visual merchandiser at Nike, a lot of early mornings, 6 a.m.s, 5 a.m.s. I loved it. I appreciated it. My background at Starbucks helped with that because we would open at the crack of dawn, 4 a.m. So my body was already used to it. Plus you're young and like 12. So you can literally wake up and you're like, let's go. So that was a really cool working experience where you would wake up really early, come in and have this huge playground to really test out your skills in how to merchandise on a daily basis in terms of like how to merge different colors with each other, how to amplify sales and slow movers. Say you have a really particular top that isn't really selling for you, how can you amplify that and actually push numbers for it? Because at the end of the day, it is a business and you really just want to make sales. So as a visual merchandiser, that is your main goal. You come in and you have the mindset of how are we going to make money today? what can I do differently to really amplify the sales today? So it was almost like coming in and having this like Sudoku puzzle ready to go. Again, a huge thing in visual merchandising as well is anticipating what's next, anticipating what might go wrong. Maybe you might not have certain product that you're able to merchandise on the sales floor in your area. So how can we make it different, or how can we fill that spot? So definitely trying to anticipate what's next there. We get into building a better understanding of your consumer. As I was with the brands, I opened Nike The Grove, Nike by Melrose. We did a remodel of Nike San Francisco, a remodel of Chicago. And then we also opened Nike Town, not Nike Town, excuse me, Nike House of Innovation in New York, our huge store off of Fifth Avenue. All that being said, we had a new way to merchandise our huge retail locations, which was called Consumer Mindsets. And it really was just a huge breakdown of how do we understand who this consumer is for this store particularly. So we know who the Nike consumer is in general. We can make a general assumption of who they are, but say based on Nike Chicago, who is this Nike Chicago consumer? We consider what their weather is. We consider what they're doing day to day. If they work in the area, what are they doing? Why would they need to come into Nike Chicago? What is their reasoning? We really wanted to hone in and understand who that consumer was. And that's really important no matter where you go or whatever store you work at. You really just want to comprehend fully who your consumer is. That way, you're making it the most beneficial experience, not only for them, but also for you, for making money. So it was a cool experience to learn and understand who that consumer was. Started off at Nike by Melrose. Also worked at Nike The Grove. For those of you that know LA and the locations, Nike The Grove, we are next to the Fairfax District, which is a huge streetwear hub for LA. Also with style off of Melrose, like you have a lot of inspiration and creative freedom there that we were able to kind of latch onto as a store and use to really amplify our own product and our own sales. So we can jump to Nike by Melrose. That location is in a bit more higher in price area. That consumer has a family, they're very active, they run on a day-to-day basis, so they're gonna be coming in for the newer tech in running apparel. They want to have a more catered one-to-one experience. How are we creating that space and making it special for them? So it really was a cool breakdown in trying to figure out who each consumer was. They also differed to the consumer in Santa Monica, as well as who the consumer was in at the Nike House of Innovation in New York, off of Fifth Avenue. That's going to be a very different consumer compared to the Nike in Soho. So you definitely have to play into almost this guessing game in trying to figure out who your consumer is. So as you jump to each store, I had a lot of opportunity to talk to the store staff, because at the end of the day, your store staff is the one who's interacting with these consumers. So they know what's best. They know what they want. So my biggest recommendation to those of you that work at a huge store and you guys are wanting to make any kind of visual merchandising changes, or you need assistance in creating a different setup for your visual merchandising opportunity on your sales floor, listen to your store staff, listen to the people who are there every day, because they know what your consumer wants. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It was a cool experience. As I assisted in opening each store because each store was so specific to that demographic. So it was nice to come back to LA with all of this knowledge to be like, okay, cool. Like everyone, although you all love Nike, like everyone is very different and everyone has a different shopping experience and intention when they come in. So that is just a brief background on kind of understanding who that consumer is, how I got into that. From there, sourcing inspiration. I did a lot of work in visual merchandising for Nike, but one of my main goals in the store was amplifying our styling aspect on mannequins and how we would kind of complement it with the merchandising within the area. I, before starting at Nike, did not know much about the brand. I didn't really follow the brand. I don't follow sport. I was not in sports growing up. I'm not that person. I apologize. Anyone from Nike who's listening, don't hate me. I was working at the downtown Portland location briefly, and I remember my first day, someone came in looking for Blazers, and I didn't know like any Blazers product. And those of you that don't know, the basketball team in Portland, they are the Blazers.
Oh,
And
that
so
kind of blazer.
I thought that it was literally,
I thought it was a blazer.
I thought it was like a jacket coat blazer. And I was like, we don't carry that here, sir. Like, we have jackets. And then that was like a coworker overheard me and then came in and saved my life.
That would have been like you.
Yeah, that's how bad it was. I was not aware. But I do not know anything sports. So I was like, okay, how can I bring my own knowledge, my own passion of fashion, that's so corny, into my day-to-day here at Nike as a full-time visual merchandiser in a store. I'm really obsessed with the high-end world of fashion. I'm really obsessed with how people convey their own style, how people layer. I am obsessed with color. I'm just obsessed with fashion in general, period. So I follow a lot of people on Instagram who inspire me for my own clothing, for my own fashion. I follow a lot of designers, up and coming designers, also local designers who are the ones who are starting the influence and trends. And I look to them to source my own personal inspiration. From there, I kind of create my own collages on my own phone, kind of after sourcing different photos and ideas from different collections. And I create my own trend forecasting boxes where I'm able to kind of convey different trends. So for example, the one on the left was called Baggy Balance, but at the time, each designer was showcasing really huge oversized pieces on their models, really playing with the overall balance and cohesiveness of their pieces on the model. So I really love that idea. Went into this next one that's waist definition. Everyone was kind of highlighting the waist, amplifying it with a belt. How are we able to kind of corset this moment? Even kind of blending the gender situation from men to women. I also love that. I did one, blurred lines, gender bender. I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity in general for retail to hop into this world of a gender non-conforming reality, honestly. There is definitely a huge world there that we're not really tapping into and we're not giving the time of day for. And I think that's something that in retail and overall as a huge corporate brand, we really need to give that time and effort into. But that's me rambling on, apologize. But from there, the one next to it is Amped Jersey Sports. So a lot of the inspiration that I sourced, I wanted to try and have under the umbrella of how can I translate these easily into the Nike world. So moving on, translating this inspiration into reality, I played a lot with the product in store. I really looked at my inspiration and wanted to run wild. My new goal every day was, how can I translate the product that we have in store into something that I can see on runway? How is Nike being portrayed in the fashion industry, in the high-end world? How can I convey that magic into my own store at the Grove? And it was my own little goal that I always loved. I was like, great, like I have these really cool skirts. How can we amplify this? How can I manipulate 4 or 5 belts on this mannequin to create this really cool waist definition on her? How can I layer these skirts in a different way? How can I cinch these pants with shoelaces? And like everything was done in store. Everything was done by manipulation that I had easily ready for me, like safety pins, anything like that. But I tried not to do too much of it because I didn't want to confuse our consumer. The main point of doing all of this was to inspire our consumer to come in and have them question what was on our mannequins. That way they had a little bit more interest in, you know what, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe I can do that for myself. Or maybe it would just challenge them into thinking about what was on the mannequin. That way, at least it got the train of thought of, you know what, maybe I might need a belt maybe I might need that skirt. Maybe I might need to find a different layering option. So it was really an opportunity to create intrigue, in effort to make more sales at the end of the day. So yeah, I at this point, I would also try to educate my team on the sales floor in the reasonings of my madness. Why did this mannequin look like this? I got this on a daily basis where people were just really questioning what I was doing. They're like, I don't get it. I don't understand. But we love it. I love the weirdness. So why not? So
That was really good.
yeah, it was a really cool experience to kind of share like my method to my madness. I hosted a couple of like styling training moments in the mornings for the team. That way they had the right and correct verbiage to speak to how these mannequins were styled, in terms of like how we want to have that verbiage between the sales associate and the consumer. It's really just based on having that educational moment with them. Anyway, but jumping from that and moving on to the next photos, because I experienced on my own and had this personal goal on how to style my mannequins in store. That was kind of my new job as I traveled to each new location for the remodels or for the new store openings, was to educate store teams on how I styled my mannequins. How are we able to amplify the product that you have in store? Maybe your product isn't the best in detail, isn't the best in design, but how can we make it look cool? How can we really make it look different? So all that being said, these are photo inspirations that went out in the US in terms of each store in each Nike store, like how are you able to convey my styling into your location? These were really cool. Like it was just a nice moment to see that my work was going to be the guidelines for stores in the US. Like, this is how we style, so maybe y'all can do this for your store too. How are you able to translate this in factory as well? Because that's a whole different demographic as well, within the Nike world, within the Nike game. And then the next page also is that same opportunity as well, but with our sportswear section with the Nike. Yeah, so I'm sorry if that was a lot of me talking and rambling,
No,
but
it wasn't. It's informative.
yeah, there's just
And you did do a great job of merchandising everything so it was high fashion and made people want to buy, including myself, a little too much. But like, it was cool. It was like the introduction also when you started doing that, when streetwear started becoming more mainstream, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm new to the streetwear game, but I feel like when you started doing that, it was like the perfect time also with the industry, since now it's very on trend. But so I feel like you probably ramped up sales all the time.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really cool, I was really obsessed with kind of making that world complement each other at the time, as well as McCall mentioned, like I believe Virgil was really huge and coming into Louis. Also at the time, there is representation in the media of like our Nike, like Nike representation in the media with FKA Twigs.
Oh, that was a moment.
It was, we were acquiring the right people to really help push the ideas that we were wanting to convey in store with all of this. So it was a nice experience. Both different worlds, but our styling mentality kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I would say so.
I think, yeah, at the end of the day, it's really just all about anticipating what's next in both worlds of styling and in merchandising. Really thinking about who your consumer is, who your
client is, how the image is going to be conveyed to them. Are they going to want to buy what you're putting on the floor? Are they going to see this celebrity and be like, I have to have that shirt? Because I know, like when I'm watching Grownish, I know I'm a little too grown to watch Grownish, but I'm always intrigued on the clothing and want it. So that's an example of someone who does a really good job at that. But yeah, definitely. I think our worlds collide.
They do almost too much.
And if anyone has any questions, we can open the floor and we will be glad to answer anything.
Yes.
All right, we got a couple of questions, but hopefully we'll see a few more kind of pop up. And One, maybe more specifically for McCall, for those, wanting to get into styling, what steps would you recommend a current, in this case, somebody who's a freshman in college, just kind of getting started with their education, what could they do now, stepwise to get into styling?
So I think it would vary for each person, but like Art said, would be to intern. But, a question is, how do you get an internship? Obviously, if we weren't in COVID times, for us, we went to FITM, so they have networking events and stuff. And even if it's not at an event, just networking, because you don't know when an opportunity will present itself. I was babysitting in college, and the babysitter I was working for is a makeup artist, and her best friend was wardrobe stylist. That's how I got my first break. But because, we might not have these social interactions in person with one another, I would say emailing or even DMing on Instagram. I check my DMs all the time, even if it's like from, messages, unknown messages or whatever. I know a few of my friends who are also in the industry do the same. I'm sure most people do. I mean, also all stylists or creative people also have the, what's called an email, and feel free to email and say styling inquiry or creative directing inquiry, whatever field in the creative world. I would just reach out. And then at the same time, if you don't have an internship yet, work on creating your own shoots. Like, we've created shoots that were not on this slide, but that's like, I don't know, if you have a whole bunch of clothes in your closet, like, this is my kit, but style yourself and have your friends take photos, or style one of your friends who you think can model well, and work on creating your portfolio that way. Hashtags on social media gain traction. Maybe you use a certain brand and you tag them, and maybe they repost you on their story, and just get the buzz that way. But internships would be, I would think, the best way. Or even like if you're working at a clothing store, whenever I'm coming into prep, I always will talk to the associate, and like, they know that we're styling, so it just comes up in conversation. And I've had people ask me if I needed an assistant, and maybe not at the time, but I definitely got their information, follow them on Instagram, and if I need them, I know I can reach out, because they want to help also. And it's fine if it's not your dream job, or if you want to do creative direction and your styling, like, they go hand in hand. And then on set you can meet people, and people want to help.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too. If you are kind of jumping in the industry and you want to, you're trying to figure out where you need to begin, honestly, a retail job will take you far. It's really nice to kind of understand how to gain those common everyday interactions with people, how to communicate with somebody, how to learn how to navigate a conversation. These are all key, like, 101 opportunities in learning how to network and create this base.
Yeah.
Every encounter that I had, even working at Starbucks, needed to be with positive intent. Like, you need to have this positive outlook with anyone, regardless if they're having a bad day, regardless if they're a sour consumer, regardless of who they are. You need to create a really good experience and a good repertoire with them, because again, at the end of the day, you never know who they are. You just start these random conversations with them, and you can kind of create this this social aspect of who you are, and that will really kind of take you far sometimes.
Yeah.
We, whenever we go into a store, we'll gravitate to the people who entertain our conversation, who will do whatever they need to do to help us out.
Yeah.
And that even comes down to a normal retail associate at Zara. How are you going above and beyond for your job to help us? And we will notice that, and we will remember that. So anyone that kind of steps out and does 110% in whatever job that you do, regardless of what it is, even if you're working at Starbucks and you want to be in the fashion industry, regardless, still puts 110% into the work, because you're still going to have that same work ethic that everyone is going to see, and it translates into every industry, regardless of what it is. So that is definitely something that I recommend you doing as well. Just kind of give it your all, have uncomfortable conversations,
Mhm.
talk to people, make yourself come out of your shy bubble, out of
Mhm.
your shell. Another beauty, as McCall mentioned, the beauty of social media and how huge it is, especially through COVID. We all have access to it. A lot of fashion houses, a lot of their creative directors manage their own social accounts. A good example would be the brand Jacques Mousse, the main designer, Simon. He is very active on his own social
Mhm.
media. He creates and curates his Instagram stories so perfectly that really just speak to who the brand is. He also has options where you can DM him and message him. But these are really cool one-to-one experiences that you can reach out.
Mhm.
What's the worst case that they say no, that they just
Exactly.
leave you on red? Like, why not shoot your shot, but make it
Mhm.
professional, but shoot your shot.
Yeah.
So we've only got like 2 more minutes and we've
Okay.
got a few more questions. So let's, for these next ones, let's try to do 30, 45 seconds. Let's just knock them out and try to get a few of these out. So
Gotcha.
next question is, how do you guys get the clothes from the shops? I guess if they're not for celebrities was the question. So how do you guys go ahead obtaining product?
Okay. So for commercial, we have a budget. So some stores have what we call a restock fee, which is like 20% of however, you have to keep 20% of however much your total is of clothing that you want to take out. So all the stores in LA, at least, and New York, I believe San Francisco, other places, all have a studio policy. So they know I'm taking it for a job. So we come in, we pull all the clothes, they ring it up, but it's a voided transaction. Like it's not, I don't have to pay for $10,000 worth of merchandise, but when I bring everything back, I do have to keep 20% of it. But so basically we have to take it on a loan, have our fitting, and then you might be able to keep it out for like 24 hours, 48 hours. Some people allow a week, and then we bring back what doesn't work, but you have to keep what's worn. Like you can't just say, oh, we didn't shoot in this and then bring it back, because one, they'll find out when they watch the commercial because you have to say what it's for, and two, you'll get blacklisted and it's not a really fun experience, I would assume. And then if it's, yeah, that's simple and sweet. That's my answer.
So next question would be, what do you guys feel is the future of, what do you feel the future of fashion looks like from an in-store experience? And what is your thoughts on the future of the mannequin, and visual decor within a lot of stores that you guys see?
Of course. I've kind of been I've been following that a little bit more as everything develops with COVID
Mhm.
and retail, especially with teaching classes at FITM. I'm trying to really find out what companies are doing now. Before everything happened, Nike was really big on creating that consumer engagement in store with having QR codes everywhere, having opportunities where you would download our own app and you would be in the know on when special drops were happening, so on and so forth. So I feel like that is going to be only amplified times 10. We were already doing in-store, you could order from your phone wherever you are, a purchase in store and you could go pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think everyone is kind of delving into how to amplify that experience.
Yeah.
How are they able to connect to their consumer times 10 now? How are we creating that engagement outside of the retail space? How are they going to be on social media a bit more than what they were before? How are you in your consumer space a little bit more? Definitely kind of finding out how to virtually get into this world of retail.
Mhm.
So it's really cool to even look at the fashion houses who are showcasing their collections. Now they'll do their own fashion lines and pre-record it and post it on YouTube.
Mhm.
Or I've seen different creative direction where they'll get a graphic design artist in and photo impose or throw their product and clothing on a 3D model.
Mhm.
And that's a really cool opportunity as well. So it just kind of amplifies how important technology is right now.
Yeah.
And where that's going to go.
I agree.
Last question. What part of your industry experience, Arturo, do you apply to the classes you teach at FITM in design strategies for e-commerce or experiential techniques in the visual world?
Of course. I am a huge advocate in understanding who your consumer is. So my main goal for each final project in each class is to really create this brand narrative and to understand who your consumer is. What are you trying to sell as a brand? What do you believe in? What is your product? How did you source your product? What is the information behind that? And who is your targeted consumer? What is that age range? Where do they shop? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? Does she go to SoulCycle? Does she shop at Whole Foods? Does she live on the West Side? It's really understanding who this consumer is to the T. And as you develop this person, you fully understand exactly where you can go in terms of how to brand and market yourself. Through social media, through your website, through your overall retail space and design. It all just kind of lands on the lap of the consumer, always.
And if you want a bonus question, what celebrity do you think has excellent style, and which celebrity do you feel does not have excellent style, in your own personal opinions?
Obviously, Rihanna has excellent style. Gwen Stefani, I mean, come on. A$AP Rocky. I won't comment on who does not have great style because it is art, and so it is up to everyone's own interpretation.
That is a good answer. I love Tracy Ellis Ross. She is my favorite. Amazing, beautiful, effortless, gorgeous. And then also, yeah, style is very all up to your own interpretation. Yeah. I have worn really awful and crazy things, and I'm okay with it.
Because always work for the time.
Exactly.
Well, thank you both for your time. We really appreciated it.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Bye.